Join me today while I cook everything from scratch and prepare a nice meal for my family and my parents. It's a Sunday and I'm making a roast turkey dinner, and I plan on taking it really slow, taking my time, and enjoying myself along the way. As I'm getting older, my parents are getting older too, and it's becoming really critically important to spend more time with them, especially as my dad goes through some health struggles and he's actually scheduled to go in for an open heart surgery. And so I really want to spend some quality time, and this dinner was the perfect opportunity for that. And so I got started early in the morning, and the first thing on my list here is straining off my yogurt that I made, because if you watched my last video, I actually made some yogurt parfaits, and I used a technique that I learned 20 years ago. And back then, there was really no YouTube or anything like that. So it was just learning hands-on from other people. But I decided to go ahead and do a little bit of research since making that video, and just finding out the right techniques and temperatures to make the yogurt. And so now this yogurt turned out a lot more thick, a lot more delicious, and I'm really, really pleased with the results. So I am just going to be making Greek yogurt on a regular basis because it saves so much money. It's so good. It's so much better than what you buy in the store. And I find that you don't even need to sweeten it because it just has a naturally delicious flavor. And so that's what I'm doing here. And then I'll be moving on to work on my turkey next. I made these blueberry parfaits, and I'm just going to show you here how thick this yogurt turned out. I let it go in the strainer overnight, and it turned out so thick. It's almost as thick as cream cheese, but it is just so luscious and delicious, and I am enjoying it so much. So I am just going to be continuing to make this yogurt. Just to age myself here, I was born in 1979 and I grew up in the 80s, and my mom was a stay-at-home mom. And I have so many memories of her kneading bread, baking cookies, and making so many homemade meals and casseroles. And I have a lot of memories of looking over her cookbooks, and she had a recipe sort of container that she put all of her handwritten cards into. And I just loved everything about that. I loved everything about homemaking. I wanted to be a mom and a homemaker since the time I was a young child. And a lot of the ways that I do things now are because of observing my mom when I was a kid. And so preparing turkey dinner is really something that comes from memory. Now, I am looking in my book here because I need to look at the timing and the temperature for the turkey. But even using these canning lids was something that my mom taught me how to do. If you didn't have a roasting rack to put your turkey on, you just put them on those canning lids and it raises it a little bit higher so it's not sitting in its own juice. And so many of the ways that I do things are from observing her, and every Thanksgiving she included me in looking through cookbooks, and we would come up with a meal plan together of what we were going to do. And then she would take me grocery shopping with her, and we picked up the ingredients together. And it just got me wondering, what kind of an impact will I have on my own kids just from their observations of what I do in the kitchen? Because my mom had such a huge impact on me, and I don't know if she actually knows that, but a lot of things that I do come from her, and I also wonder how much of that came from her mother, and how many things that she does were things that she learned from her own mom. It's got me thinking. And there's a lot of parts of me that come from my dad as well. He is a very frugal and thrifty man. He knows how to fix things if they're broken, and he will fix something rather than go and get something to replace it. And my dad would save all of the soap ends in a jar, and he'd have a huge jar full of soap ends so that if anything happened one day, he had that to fall back on. And he would spend a lot of money on saving up food for the family, and we had tons of grains and tons of beans. And you know, I think I really get a lot of my thriftiness from him. So I just appreciate my parents so much, and making this dinner just feels really nice to be able to pay back a little bit of what they've taught me. I have such a nostalgia for the past, and I think that's why I love collecting vintage cookbooks as well as vintage kitchen items. A part of me really craves to go back to that time when I was a kid. Life just seemed so much easier, so much simpler, and just more peaceful. And I feel like the modern world is full of stress and time demands and responsibilities and so many things that just aren't fruitful and aren't really serving us. And so that's why I like to kind of dress in a more old fashioned way and live in a more old fashioned lifestyle, because I just want to feel a piece of that past and bring it with me and carry it with me into the rest of my life. And so cooking a turkey dinner just really reminds me of my childhood. It really reminds me of cooking with my mom, and it just brings back so many memories. It's a beautiful spring day outside. The snow is finally gone for good, and there's a lot of outdoor work to be done on the farm. And so one of my plans today is to go out into the garden and get doing some weeding, because it really, really needs it. And I'm really behind on getting any of that kind of work done. At least I feel like I am. But I know everything will happen in time. There's always so much cleaning up to do in the kitchen after any kind of project. And that's something that you don't always see in these videos, but there's so much cleanup work that happens And so I'm scrubbing everything down and rinsing and scrubbing again, especially after working with raw meat. So I'm just really cleaning and sanitizing every surface. And here I've got the turkey neck and the gizzards, and I'm going to put that aside and save that in the fridge. And I'll try and make a flavorful soup stock out of that. So I'm just going to tuck that away for now. I'm not going to use it. And my animals actually don't really like the turkey gizzards. I'm not sure why, they just don't really care for them. My husband and I have been especially busy lately on our farm with harvesting carrots. It's been a lot of work, and I felt like I've gotten quite behind on a lot of household duties, so I've been playing catch up. And I also want to do some experimenting in the kitchen. And so right now, I found a really old recipe for making homemade sour cream. And so I need 20% cream. So I'm mixing half and half and heavy cream together, and then 5 teaspoons of buttermilk. And then I need to leave this in a really warm place for 24 hours. And I have no idea if this buttermilk will work because I'm not sure if it has a live culture in it. So I guess I will find out. But this is just an experiment. After making the yogurt, I'm really curious about trying other things and seeing how they'll work out for me. So I'll let you know if this actually works. But I definitely wanted to test it out and give it a try. And there's so many things that you can experiment with in your kitchen. Creme fraiche is another one that I'd love to try. So there's so many things that you can have fun with. I happened to find these brand new lace curtains at the thrift store, which was a really good score. And I just love lace curtains so much. They just make me think of romance and Victorian times, and there's just something about it that I love. So while my husband is out working outside, I'm sneaking these curtains on because he's not really a fan. He doesn't know that he'll like it. So I'm sneaking them on, and I already told him, give me a week, we'll test it out, and if you absolutely hate it, we'll get rid of it. But I told him, let me at least have my dream curtains for a week. And I've really been doing well at the thrift store. I'm really particular. I leave empty-handed a lot of times, but I found this really beautiful rose patterned bedspread. I showed that in a past video. And recently I found the perfect sheet set to go with it. And I also found some lacy pillowcases, but I haven't put them on the pillows yet. I'm kind of nervous about it because I'm scared they're going to get ruined, and they're really beautiful. But I'm just so happy with some of the things I've been finding lately. The nice thing about weekends is that when I go to work outside, I can just do it for fun. It's not a job. And when I get tired of it, I can go inside and do something else. And that's how I treat my garden. It's a place for me to enjoy. It's not a place of real work. And even though I do have to work in it, it's not the same as working on our farm. When we're working on our farm, it's things that have to get done. And so the garden is a bit of a reprieve. And so now it's getting closer to the time when my parents are going to be showing up. And so I've decided to set the table and get it ready. But I want to do things in a slow way that doesn't feel stressed or rushed. And I really enjoy that, just taking my time, having the whole day. And when it's family, you don't have to worry because even if you're not ready yet, it's okay. They're just going to sit and socialize. And that's exactly what happened. And so I don't worry about it too much. This turkey was definitely cooked and it was around 3 o'clock, and we weren't eating until 5 o'clock. But it was cooked, fully cooked. And so what I decided to do was just take it out, put the foil on it, and let it sit because I know it's going to hold the heat in for quite a long time. And it actually turned out just perfect. So I took it out of the oven and I let it there to cool a little bit while I worked on other things. And the next thing on my list was dessert. And one of the things that I really wanted to try making was a jelly roll. I've read about these. I've wanted to make one for years. And funny enough, when I told my mom about it, she told me she also always wanted to make one and never has. And there's a real technique to it. So I had to go get the right sized pan, which was 10 by 15 by 1 inch. And then I made this mixture, and it's kind of an angel food cake type mixture. And I put that in the pan, and it only has to bake for 15 minutes. And it's all about the technique making a jelly roll. So what you need to do to make this jelly roll is that when your hot cake comes out of the oven, you need to put it directly onto a kitchen towel, a clean kitchen towel that's been dusted heavily with icing sugar. And that way it won't stick to the towel. And then you're going to roll it up while it's still hot. And that way it's going to hold its shape once it cools off. So you cool it off while it's in the towel, and then you're going to undo it and put the filling in it. This was my first time using this pan, and so I wasn't sure if the cake would stick or not, so I wanted to ensure that it wouldn't by using parchment paper. And so I'm taking the parchment paper off, and now I'm going to roll up this cake. And this was such an exciting moment for me because I don't know why, I just always wanted to make one of these, but it always seemed so complicated. But I read the instructions thoroughly in a 1960s copy of The Joy of Cooking, and all the instructions were there, and so I felt confident to give it a try. And then so I've got to let this cool off while it's in this rolled up shape, and in the meantime I'm making a lemon curd filling to go inside. And after eating it, I would probably double this recipe. I feel like it would have been nice to have a little bit more filling in, but that's okay. It turned out really, really delicious, and the lemon flavor was quite strong. Now, I tried to get in as much footage as I could here because this is while my parents were actually here, and I really didn't want to bombard them with footage and cameras and that kind of thing. And so I just quietly took a few shots while I could because I wanted to have some end results. So you can see how this cake really wants to roll back up, and it really holds its shape really well. And you can make anything into a jelly roll. You can make probably any kind of cake, and it's all about the technique. So you could fill this with chocolate filling or any kind of filling you want. I'm definitely going to make more of these in the future. I was so excited about this, and it looked so fancy, and it really wasn't very much work. Now, one of the things that my mom taught me was adding potato water from your mashed potatoes into the gravy, and that's one of the techniques that I wonder if her mom taught her. All in all, this turned out to be a beautiful dinner, and I got to have time with my parents to sit and talk, and I found out some things that I never knew about them, and it was really, really great. I love to share videos every week about cooking from scratch, homemaking, and life on our farm. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you guys next week.